As South Africa gears up to celebrate National Women's Day tomorrow, it is only fitting to look back at the legacy left by the amazing women who continue to strive and fight for women's rights. One such woman is Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke, the first black woman to graduate from a university in South Africa and a women's rights activist. The Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Institute is a family initiative born from the desire to preserve and promote the legacy left behind by Charlotte. We talked to Ambassador for the Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Institute, Dr. Musawenkosi Saurombe, who in 2014 was the youngest black woman in Africa to graduate with a PhD. We catch up with her now to tell us more about the legacy of Charlotte Maxeke, the work done at the Institute, and the plans for this year's Women's Day. Thank you so much for joining us on the line, Dr. Musawenkosi. Really appreciate it. Just wanted to find out, how is the Institute, how is Charlotte Maxeke being celebrated? As we all know that she would have been 150 years old next year. So how's she being celebrated this month as we celebrate Women's Day?
Thank you very much. Good morning. Well, it's really important for us to celebrate Charlotte, because obviously those of us who do know about her, and in fact it should be everyone who is keen or who has a part in, the history of this country. It's important for everyone, especially every young woman, to know the role that she played, the person that she was, and how she made a major, a groundbreaking, pioneering contribution to some of the freedoms that we enjoy today as young women. And so we are celebrating her by remembering her and reviving her legacy, ensuring that those who do not know about her get to know about her and the strides that she made, and how she's someone relatable to as young people in our generation. How do we relate to her? How do we carry on the work that she left behind for us to continue? Because, of course, as a pioneer, it's necessary that we carry on the work that she started. And so we're celebrating her history, her contribution, and saying each and every woman, young or old, you still can also make a contribution even now.
Why the key emphasis on education at the Charlotte Maxeke Institute?
Okay, so as you know, Charlotte was a multifaceted individual, from musician, from education, from, political presence. And one of her passions was education, to educate and to eradicate illiteracy among women in particular, and black people. And so the reason why we espouse education so much is because that's one of the values that was so dear to her. And we would like to continue, the legacy that she left behind. And also something really phenomenal about her, for those who do not know, she was the first black woman to graduate with a BSc degree, in Southern Africa way back then. So that's something absolutely phenomenal, before women were even necessarily welcomed in education spaces. So that's something we could all learn from.
That's amazing. And then in terms of yourself as a young black woman who achieved such a great accolade, did you ever struggle with having your voice heard, specifically in the academic space?
Well, of course you do encounter different struggles. I'm not sure whether for me in particular it was a struggle with having my voice heard necessarily. However, there's something about education that permits you or accrues an audience to you. Once you have proven yourself, somewhat in terms of being able to actually acquire knowledge in a particular field, then you do obviously amass an audience, people who are willing to listen to what you have to say. And so it's important to leverage that audience to make an impact, to make a positive influence. And so for me, that's what this is about. And one of Charlotte's quotes, one of my favorite quotes of hers is, if you can rise, bring someone with you. So it's important that through whatever knowledge or education you acquire, that you also empower others. You also influence them to, soldier on in their pursuit of, academics, especially during this time that we're currently faced with. It's absolutely imperative.
All right, so tomorrow is, of course, Women's Day. How does the Institute plan on celebrating Women's Day, considering that it is, of course, COVID-19? And how have you guys been coping at the Charlotte Mannya Institute?
Okay, so one of the things that, COVID-19 has taught us is, like, as with everyone else or most people who have been doing their best to cope with the times, is resilience and adaptability as well. So we have leveraged every resource available to us in order to make sure that we do not, forfeit the opportunity to keep making an impact and difference. And so tomorrow, the program will be in Cliptown, where we'll be working with girls who are a part of the program. We have several other ambassadors besides myself also participating in the initiatives. For instance, there's the Bring Her Up initiative that has been taking place since 2017. So these are some of the things that we're rolling out, and especially tomorrow, the focus will be on encouraging and empowering and reminding young people of the space that they need to be taking up.
Can you tell me a little more about the Bring Her Up campaign? Where did the idea come from?
Okay, so the Bring Her Up campaign is obviously an effort from the Institute to perform a recalibration. And this has been taking place for a while. And even myself, as a researcher, I know that there has been vast research conducted, trying to really reconfigure the spaces and who is permitted to enter into certain spaces in terms of gender demarcation. And so the Bring Her Up program is meant to empower disenfranchised girls and young women who have not yet had their voice heard, who have perhaps grown up under abject circumstances which have not permitted them to take up the space that they otherwise should. So it's important, that through this program, we continue to empower and uplift women. And another interesting thing is that from this Bring Her Up program, also a Bring Him Up program was birthed, because we do understand that in order to have a strong presence and citizenship of young women, it's also important to empower the young men so that they understand the significance of a young woman. And hopefully this will contribute towards the efforts of eradicating even gender-based violence.
What's the Institute's take on women being looked at as equals, specifically in parties like the ANC? As we know, Mom Charlotte was one of the few members that attended the launch of the South African Native National Congress in Bloemfontein back in 1912, and she was actively involved in politics. What's the Institute's take for this day and age, or this political climate within the ANC, with it being inclusive of women?
Our take at the CMMI is that, and as you've rightfully said, Charlotte really participated she was very present in the political sphere. And it's important to realize that how that links now and connects to today is that she was actually a pioneer. Even what we know now as the ANC Women's League, she was the founder of it when it was the Bantu Women's League. And so she was the only woman, like, at the time, who was actually allowed in parliament, which is something really amazing, because it's, like I've mentioned, groundbreaking. And so because she pioneered that and opened and made available those spaces to other women as well, it's important that we continue the work, but no longer just being given a segment, or let's say being made a branch or an alternative avenue within that political arena, but now also becoming merged into the organization, let's say of the ANC itself. So it's important that the ANC Women's League does no longer runs as a silo or independent of the actual ANC. There needs to be equal contribution from the women, and the decisions that women have to contribute towards any political issue need to be from within. So they need to be organic, and we need to be part of the decisions as well, not just as a sideline type of organization.
Dr. Musawenkosi Saurombe, thank you so much for your time, the ambassador at the Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Institute.